This is a DMB Society podcast.
I got a sister named Jane.
And this is the pod that Jane likes. All right, everybody, welcome back to the pod that Jane likes. You are listening to our second installment of Jane's guest list. This is Matt, joined as always by Jeanette, Trisha, and Sean, and we are so grateful today that we are joined by one of the most important and adored people in the DMB community, Rob Stevenson. If you've been to a Dave Matthews Band show over the past decade plus, you have no doubt seen or encountered Rob roaming the venue, chatting with fans, and handing out set lists. The most important thing he does, however, is behind the scenes, where he takes care of arguably the most important instrument in the band, Dave Matthews' voice. In addition to being a vocal coach for Dave, he's worked with quite the impressive client list, including Trey Anastasio, Rihanna, Justin Timberlake, Brandi Carlile, Lizzo, Chris Stapleton, and our buddy Clay Cook and the Zach Brown Band. Yeah. Let's give a very warm welcome to Rob Stevenson. Rob, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming.
It's so exciting to have you.
Yeah, I'm so blessed to be here. Thank you. Yeah.
So we want to get into a number of topics today, including Dave's voice, being on tour with DMB, and of course, your on-stage time with the band and with Dave and Tim in Mexico. But before we dive into all that, can you talk a little bit about how you first got your start as a vocal coach?
You know what? Be honest with you, I was never trying to be a voice coach. I had when I was doing the artist thing, I had a voice coach that they sent me to. I knew I was young, 17, 18 years old, put out my first big song called Foreplay. Yes, I said Foreplay. I was a little hot little boy during that time. Still am. Okay, that's it. But during that time, I had this big song, and it had a lot of really big high notes in it. And I knew some nights I would be able to sing that song and really do well with it. And then I would do the same song the next night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I struggling to hit these notes? Something's not right. I didn't sleep with the fan on. I didn't have the air conditioning on. I didn't walk outside barefoot in the rain and catch a cold. So what is it? And I was always searching for answers for why there was inconsistencies in my own performances. So the record label, they sent me to a guy named Ron's house in Orlando, which is where I'm from. And he had a golden retriever. And he was a nice guy. But every time I would go to his house to do voice lessons, it's like he had an invisible eye to his golden retriever humping my leg during the whole session. It was like, you just want to sit here and let Rocky just do this to my leg. I love animals, but I'm going to kick this dog if you don't get.
Is that what inspired the Foreplay song?
the song, if the song wasn't written, I would say yes. I would say yes, but no. In that instance, I felt like one of the things that I didn't get from that particular coach was that as a human being, we mimic by what we hear. If you're in a choir and you think Sister Johnson or Brother Larry sings really well, we kind of gravitate to those people and kind of mimic what they're doing because they're singing so well. And so in my case, the instructor that was teaching me, it wasn't that he was a bad teacher, but anytime at that time, because I was young, I was so quick at mimicking what I heard and I thought was what was good. And he didn't have a really good example of that. And then the dog was just really, my leg was going to get pregnant if he didn't stop. But to make a long story short, that relationship ended really abruptly. And then I never seen him again. And then it wasn't until 93 when I came back in the music industry and got a background singing gig with Justin Timberlake. And I met his voice coach, which changed my life forever. And not only she had the answers to all the questions that I had pertaining to the voice, you know, she was breaking all kinds. She was doing like Mythbusters for the voice. Like if you do this will cause that to happen. You would do this will cause that to happen. You don't sleep well, it could cause this to happen. You can have, you know, tension in the voice. If you stay up late at night, don't get the proper amount of sleep, You wake up, you have morning voice. Think about it. You wake up in the morning, your voice is really groggy. And then what happens when you have to do like the concert series that's coming up for Good Morning America or the Today Show? Well, my clients have to be up at 2 a.m. so we can shock the lymphatic system to charge their body and get their body into thinking it's later in the afternoon before we have a call time of 4:30 a.m. So it's a lot that goes on with that. And she was able to answer those questions. Her name was Robin Wiley. And I followed her around asking her all these questions about the voice. And I used to think she was magic because my voice would be shot before the gig because me and my friends, we were really loud all the time. Like loud, yelling, laughing at everything, cracking jokes, being boys. Yeah, on tour with Justin. And me and my partner, Daryl, who was a mentor of mine, who actually called me for the job, singing background for Justin Timberlake 9 days later after rededicating my life to Christ and asking God to become my manager. And 9 days later, I was out there singing with Justin Timberlake on the microphone, no audition, no nothing. And
That's
then
incredible.
I met his coach. That was 2002. And I remember that week like it was yesterday. I flew in, we started working. We met with his coach that Wednesday. We had Jimmy Fallon, I believe, that Thursday. Then we flew to MTV, New York, Times Square, performed Like I Love You, Cry Me a River, Senorita, all that stuff in Times Square in front of everybody. It was a brainstorm. And then I was back in college on Monday, back in class. Like that. It was
incredible.
Fast. And I've been working with him ever since then, 2002 to present. But when she fell ill, I was already asking her all this information about the voice. And one year, God told me to teach 1,000 singers off the CD that I had of exercises that she would have me to do with Justin when she wasn't around. And I would coach singers off of that. And I tried to get to 1,000 singers and it didn't work. I was in September with only 287 singers. I was cheating, to be honest with you. I would go to church choirs and be like, yo, can I warm up your choir? I'll warm them up for free. You ain't got to pay me nothing. It's all good. And I had a little chart. I don't know what I did. It was probably in storage. But I would write down, I'm like, oh, I got 57 singers today.
Wow.
And majority of the time I would get rejected. I probably got rejected 200 times, 700 times out of that 1,000. But it was never about how many singers I could get to. It was really developing my ear, honing in the skill, and whether they paid me or not. I was just doing it strictly for the love and honoring and serving people. And the money and being able to make a living out of it would shortly come, like sooner than later. As me being obedient to all of that. And I fell in love with serving and helping people, to the point to where I put my career as a, not just as a solo artist, but I was able to take a lot of those tools from arranging vocals for artists, which I winded up doing or still do to this day. I co-produced Trey Anastasia's solo acoustic album right in here. And the Sigma Oasis album, arranged all the vocals on that. The most recent album, arranged all the vocals on that album. And that opened doors for him introducing me to Rick from Goose, working with him. Dave Matthews introducing me to Brandy Carlisle. Brandy Carlisle introducing me to Joni Mitchell, Annie Lennox, Lucius. The list goes on and on. Yeah. And working with, a lot of singers just by serving and helping them. So it opened up a lot of doors. Yeah. And I'm really grateful for that. Mm-hmm.
You really have an unbelievable client list.
God is great.
Just so impressive. I wonder as you're kind of going through your story and rattling off all of these unbelievable acts that you've worked with over the course of your career, is there anyone maybe from early in your career or early in their career, the artist's career, that when you started working with them kind of just blew you away with what they were able to bring to the table?
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. Each one of them. I mean, it's just like having kids. I mean, do you really go out and say, that's my favorite kid? Some people do.
Sometimes I do.
Some people do that. Man, you let me say that to one of my daughters like that. I won't even say it just to pretend. I'm like, such and such is my favorite. I will get punished in the worst way. They won't let me live it down. And even the one that I might say is my favorite, just pretending, she'd be like, you're wrong for that, Dad. How could you do that? You're my favorite? Does that mean anything? I don't care. We're all your favorite. I'm like, wow. No, but no, I'll never do that. But it's like that with all of them. Each one of them have a different set of, personalities, of course. Genres of music means a lot. But the work ethic is a whole different thing, When I first started with the band or any artist, I normally recommend that they send me the set list so we can work on that. So I can start breaking down lyrics. I need all that stuff in advance. And then sometimes, even if I'm not arranging vocals for the artist, they'll send me a list of songs that they're doing based on the set list. I'll take all the lyrics. I'll go back and re-sing all the harmonies in here and recreate it all, so I can understand what's going on, what they're supposed to sing, what they're not supposed to sing. If they're trying to sing everything, if they're dancing and singing at the same time, I'm like, that's what's going on with the voice. You're doing too much. You need some background singers. That's what needs to happen. And then they can take off a lot of the stress on a lot of that stuff, and what they're doing. And they have more freedom to play. If they want to talk to the audience and the backgrounds are being solid, we can do all those things. So my thing with that, it's extremely important. So when I normally have a show where it's programmed from top to bottom, that's kind of easy for me because I've been doing that for many years. When I first got in here with the band, I've heard Satellite, I've heard Gray Street, I know what it was called, but now I know it's called Number 41. Then there's 7, then there's 40. I'm like, man, where's the name? Why we got numbers and we don't mention the number in the song? What's that about? But there's a deep appreciation for that. I remember my assistant asking for the set list, and management was like, we don't have a set list yet. I'm like, what do you mean? This band been touring for 20 some years. You don't have a set list. I know y'all know it. Me not understanding what this is. I'm like, right. I said, no, you don't understand. I need the set list now so I can start taking my notes. I don't like going nowhere unprepared. It's bad for me and it's unnerving for me. Sure. And it's like, he's probably not going to write the set list until maybe the day of the show. I'm like, who does that? I'm mad. I'm like, y'all trying to set me up to fail. And the guy that brought me in to work with the band is Anthony Giordano, the production manager for the tour. And me and him have history together with Justin Timberlake. He's a legend in our industry. He's worked for Michael Jackson for many years, Prince. I mean, you name it. You want to meet a real legend? Anthony Giordano is that guy. And before I got there, he used to always see me show up at the gig early, be the last one to leave, working with Justin night after night. And he was like, hey, would you ever come and talk with Dave about, his voice, do a consultation? I was absolutely. I'd be glad to do that. And just so happened, Justin had just received the Vanguard, Michael Jackson Vanguard Award that was being taped in the newly built Barclays Arena in Brooklyn. And that's where I really got emotional because I got to stand in the gap for my mentor, Robin Wiley, and work with all the boys of NSYNC. I got to work with them before Justin's award that night. And then I flew home, driving through Atlanta, get to my house. And then I saw a sign that says Dave Matthews Band is in town for March Madness. And I called Anthony. I'm like, yo, are y'all here? And he was like, yeah. He's like, hey, buddy, where are you? He said, you're in town? It was, I'm calling Dave right now. Click, clank, clicks, hang up the phone. And then me and my relationship with God, I'm like, oh, I'm good. It's happening. Here we go again. And, and God clearly says, don't charge them anything. I'm like, what? Wow. I wasn't going to charge them nothing. No way. I'm just going to help. Then I called my wife, who's my assistant. And then I said, hey, I'm on my way home. I'm dropping the bags off. I just talked to Anthony. Dave Matthews Band is in town. I'm going to help out. I'm just going to grab a few vocal things and take it up there to him, just like that. And she says, okay, good. Don't charge him anything. Now, she swears she don't remember that. But she did. Wow. Normally, she doesn't say that at all. But on this particular day, I'm like, I have a pity party. I'm like, what's going on with you and God? I wasn't going to charge him nothing. No way. I was going to help. What are you talking about? Anyway, I get there to the venue. Me and him, we start talking vocal stuff. I give him I go through his vocal rider, and then I exchange stuff out on what he needs and how to use it. 30 minutes later, we're already working on his voice. And then Anthony, being the guy that he is, he opens up the door and he pushes Sting in the same room. Sting says, "What's up, Dave? Yeah, what's up, man? It's so great to see you." He's going on first. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at both of them. I'm like, okay. And I don't get starstruck anymore, except for like when I got to do the Stevie thing, or maybe Charlie Wilson, who was somebody I really admired vocally. And Sting says, "Hey, I'm about to go on stage. Can you warm me up too?" Bam.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So I'm sitting
That's
there
incredible.
going, "Nobody's gonna believe this is happening. My wife is gonna call me a liar." You got a camera?
That is, you would never believe that. You would never believe that.
And then everything goes back into real time. Yeah, really fast. It speeds up. And then I believe I high-five Sting once he gets off stage. I stay for 4 songs for Dave Matthews Band, March Madness at Centennial Park here in Atlanta. And then I go home. Rest is history.
Unbelievable.
Did your wife believe you?
Huh?
That's the big question. Yeah.
Did your wife believe you?
Yeah, she did. I was
Okay,
like,
good.
You realize what happened? Sting did whatever. And then she's like, "Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, cool. That's good to have." And I'm like, "You heard what I just said?" It turned into that, yeah.
Well, that's
something bigger was happening.
Sure.
I was on tour that year. Justin, this was the first tour I wasn't a background singer with Justin Timberlake. I guess because of all the stuff that I've done in the past, he had shifted, new music director. The previous music director went on to be the music director for Madonna and a lot of, other artists. And so a friend of mine, not at the time, because I didn't know him that well, Adam Blackstone, he came in and took over the gig, and they brought in new pieces. And Justin wanted to continue to have me around as not only his voice coach, but doing the arranging of the vocals for the tour with the new singers. And I did it. I stayed there and continued doing that. And that was 2013. So I had that tour going on. Pharrell had the Happy thing going on with the Dear Girl album. So he was doing shows. Kelly Clarkson was doing a thing with Maroon 5. And Justin's background singer, Nicole Hurst, she was actually on tour with Kelly Clarkson when she wasn't out with Justin Timberlake. And also at the time, I had this young artist named Austin Mahone and Kelly Rowland. They were all going on tour doing all kinds of stuff at that time. And I was waiting on Kelly Clarkson to lock down a week's worth of tour prep for her. And they just never called. And then guess who came a calling was Dave Matthews Band. Yeah. The tour manager called and said, "Hey, we want to get you ready. Dave want to know if Rob is available to come out and get him ready to kick off the tour." I think it was in Houston. And 2 days of rehearsals, and then a couple days of rehearsals, and then 2 shows, and then that'd be it. He enjoyed whatever we did the last time at Centennial Park. I was like, okay, great. Now, the girl, Nicole Hurst, that introduced me to Kelly Clarkson, I was waiting on those dates. She went in, and I know her parents really well. Every time I go to Houston, I always try and meet up with her mom and her dad. Amazing singer, artist. And I've coached her until she lost her battle with cancer. And during this time, she was diagnosed. And I told her, I said, "Hey, look, if I can work with you online, I'll do it for free. I'll just help. Let me just help because I want to see her get back. But with chemo, it does a thing with the body and the voice and all that stuff." And I knew she felt uncomfortable with doing online sessions. And so I told God, I said, "God, if you get me close to her, I know you will fix it." Well, guess where the Dave Matthews rehearsals were? Literally down the street from the hospital where she was getting her chemo.
Wow.
I said, "Look, if you can get to the hotel every day, we'll work until it gets right." Just like that. Wow. And that was that week I started with the band. Yeah.
Oof.
2 weeks later, she was back on tour with Justin Timberlake, and her
Wow.
sub happened to be my cousin, who I didn't know, Aaron Stevenson, who sang with Janet Jackson, J-Lo, all these artists, and come to
Wow.
find out me and her are
Amazing.
related. Yeah,
No kidding.
Amazing.
isn't that
Well-
crazy?
It's crazy.
That is crazy. The
Yeah.
just the fact that those two things were so. I mean, like all your stories so far, are so awesome and so mind blowing. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Dave. We've heard you on other interviews, other podcasts, talking about singers as vocal athletes.
Oh yeah.
And can you give us an idea when you first met Dave of what type of a vocal athlete he was?
Well, let me tell you this, and I kind of got off course. I do that from time to time. Yeah. When I got the set list thing, that's where I was. When I finally came out for that week of rehearsals, it was true. I was sitting in his dressing room. I'm looking, I'm like, what are you writing down? It was a set list in real time. And I'm like, we got an hour and a half, man, in my head. I'm like, how? Okay. All right. Well, let me scramble and try and find some notes so I can put together real quick. Now, I noticed not only me, but the whole team scrambles to put that show together night after night.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
My respect from lighting, visual, sound team, it's on go. Everything's on the fly. There's nothing in the box. And if you understand what the box means, the box is the other shows that I work on. And there's something beautiful about that. Whatever the show is set to time code, fireworks, everything. And you cannot veer off of that. Now, unless there's a special guest, and even that might take a day or two to do a whole new show with a block of time added in there so they don't miss anything and people get hurt on tours. When I saw how the magic of what you guys as fans have in a band like this, it blew my mind. I remember when he did that set list, I was like, oh, cool, I'm cool. I will hold that set list. I held that set list in my pocket for the next night. And I sat in his dressing room. I'm like, what are you writing? What are you writing? I already got the set list. He's like, no, that was yesterday's. I'm doing another. I'm like, why? It's the same thing. Same thing. No, it's different every night. I'm like, why? This was my first time working with a band that does that.
Right.
It's mind-boggling. And I'm like, I hope these fans really understand what they're getting.
Wow.
When the show is programmed from top to bottom, the only thing that's different about going to see the show is angles. This right here, it's like a present every single night. You don't know what you're going to get. Box of chocolates.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we keep coming back.
Right.
And it
Exactly.
keeps coming back.
Right.
I've met so many beautiful people in this fan base, and one of them is my man, Michigan Wolverines Mike. He's over 500 plus shows.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, where you get the money to do this? He goes,
well,
I have a Davings account. I'm like, Davings
A
account?
Davings account.
that's a great term.
Good one.
I don't want to
And
look
it's
at my
just
Davings
for him to
account.
come and do his music thing, you know. And I think it's so beautiful. And in the beginning, I didn't understand what that was, but I get it now. It's like watching people song. It's almost like playing lottery bingo, you know, when you've been chasing a song in person for a long time, and I see the excitement. People either burst into tears, crying, tears of joy, or the husband. I'm getting emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what he is.
Yeah.
They are to us for sure.
Yeah.
You know, you get it now, but when you first started with him,
Yeah. So the power of the set list. And we talk about the athlete. When I do my regular program shows, I know the songs that's going to cause challenges in the voice. I can fix those things. We can work to get those together. All right, you can't do as much dancing over here. You can't. You got to kind of tone it down a little bit so you can flat foot sing the song and get your point across. Every night, it's not like training him to do that set list. It's training him to do any song in his catalog. That's a whole different beast. It's like in basketball, how many games are there in a season? 82, 84, maybe, whatever that number is. They don't just train to play 2 teams out of the year. They have to train to play all the teams. Basketball, baseball, 120 games. Football, 17, 18 games, preseason. And that's how I look at it, like that. He's got to be ready to do any song that he has in his repertoire without being afraid of what could cause problems or what he's had challenges with in the past. My goal is when I see the set list, I get probably more excited than y'all do. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're going to sing that song? Oh my gosh. You're going to do those back to back? You're going to put Watchtower in the middle of the set? Yeah.
I love that.
I have to leave the room. I have to leave the room from him because I get so excited and just go in the corner, just yell in the corner.
That's so exciting.
I get so hyped because it puts all the training in an order. Because for me, I have to go inside the mind of the fans. I have to go and listen to, like, okay, when I see what some of y'all have said, I'm like, oh, Dave can't sing this song. Or this artist can't sing that song because they don't have it no more. They're getting older. I take that personal. I really do. I'm like, oh, that's what y'all doing? Watch this. The only way to silence a critic is to shut them up. Yeah,
that's right.
Let's shut their mouths. And then when he pulls it out, I remember one year at SPAC. This is when I really first noticed it. I can't remember it. You have to go through the app and find this show. It had Squirm, it had Pig, it had Cornbread, I believe Halloween, it had Seven, it was like, if I was Mike Tyson throwing haymaker after haymaker, that's what that set was for me. And I was out on the lawn during there rolling in the grass with joy. Song after song, I was dancing my heart out. I was like a soccer mom. Soccer dads, when their kids get knocked on the ground, it's like, yeah, get them a little dirty. It's okay. Mom, you hit my child one more time, I'm going to destroy you, referee. Mom, the referee is 12 years old. Why do you want to beat up a kid? What you doing? Stop that. That's me. I celebrate when he does that. And then it's all the jumping around. I mean, you go big song, aggressive song, to something really small and tiny and beautiful, like Sister, or, you know, it's those moments which I find really amazing about him. And then think about it. It's a 2.5 to 3 hour show. One time we did Dave and Tim I think it was 4 hours, 11 minutes, 3 encores. His voice was on fire like that. I call it the Prince effect with everybody. I always ask, how much juice did you have left over to pull a Prince? What is pulling a Prince? After you've done a 2.5 hour show, can you go to a club and do a 5,000 to 6,000 seater 1.5 to 2 hour show? Do you have enough left in the tank to do that? How much juice you have? Yeah. And where the term juice comes from, and this might offend some people, I'm sorry, but I always wondered when O.J. Simpson was riding in that Bronco, how much gas could they put in that thing? It seemed like it was driving around for hours before it pulled off. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I always refer to it the Prince effect. Yeah, how much juice you have left in the tank, that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you get the set list obviously before the rest of us if we're attending the show, but you having that reaction is how we get it in real time when the band starts to play these songs, right? And I've been following this band around since the 90s. I've been to almost 300 shows, and I will say, in the early 2000s, we as fans we were nervous about Dave's voice. In 2002, they actually had to cancel 2 shows because Dave had done some damage to his vocal cords, and it was devastating because we were all, what's the future of Dave's voice, which means what's the future of the band, right? So, here you come in now, and we don't have that fear anymore. you know, and what did you notice when you first started working with him that you really needed to work on with him?
I just feel like when I work with any artist, you know, I personally try not to listen to their music, the recordings. That's just my thing right away.
Oh,
It's a cheat code. It's a cheat code for me. Like immediately, when a person talks, I immediately start assessing their voice right away. Yeah.
wow.
It's almost my kryptonite, if anything. It is. Or even singers that I've worked with for a while, they start talking to me technically about the other people's voices. Yeah, you know, which is, you know, the way to really help. But, you know, Anthony kind of gave me enough information. When he talked about, you know, cancellations and stuff like that, there's a lot logistically that goes into having to reschedule tours or rescheduling shows. And especially even regardless how big or small it is, it's money. It's finances that comes into play. And so my goal is, it's like, how can I make a difference and serve and help? You know, because no artist, I don't care who the artist is, they don't like to cancel. They don't want to.
Of course
they don't have to. And it does something to the confidence. It does something to their, you know, mental health in regards to certain things like that. And my goal is to come in and shower, number one, with a lot of love, because it's a vulnerable space to have someone like me come in. And I see what the fans are saying. I see what the critics are saying. I take all that into consideration. And then I have a conversation with every artist. I'm like, what are your goals? Let's figure out what that is. Not mine, because I already got a plan in my head. What's your goals? What do you want to do to be better? Let's talk about that. All right. Well, let's go to the matrix. There's the blue pill. Nobody likes their trainer. I don't care who you are until you start seeing results. Right. And then there's the red pill. Oh, so you're just going to go out and do everything I told you not to do. That's going to keep getting you in trouble. Okay, so that's what you're going to do tonight? I'll be standing right here just doing this going, I tried to tell you. You're on your own. There it is. Not saying I want to see people fail, but we're grown. You have choices, and here's the choice. You can either do this, and that's going to come with repercussions, or you're going to do this. Might come with a little bit of frustration. You know, a caterpillar. I got a caterpillar on my porch right now, and I think it's beautiful. Going through a transformation. You think he's comfortable in this cocoon, chilling, tight, body transforming, doing all this stuff? Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable for a minute. But the goal is, all right, wait till you try this song out. It's going to feel a lot easier. You know, it's going to feel like somebody lowered the key on it, and you should be singing it comfortably. And that's, for me, that's my goal. And so when I see that, that's why the celebration and joy hits me a lot different than y'all. Because I am that soccer mom on the side of the field. Yeah. Right. When everybody's talking about my kid's getting knocked down night after night when he's giving his all. That's my brother up there. And I love him. And I want to see him do well. Oh, here I go again.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask how you measure success. It sounds like you can really tell, you know, when they're hitting certain songs that you've maybe practiced.
Right away. And a lot of times I call my method the Karate Kid method. You know, I might not explain what I'm doing, but that wax off, wax on and wax off.
Right.
That's what I'm doing a lot of times in the session until I have to really point out what's really the problem or what's causing the issue so we can fix it really quickly. And for me to see him or any of my clients coming off the stage and still have a speaking voice or having joy about what they just went through that night. And you guys play a part of that. Y'all don't realize, you know, like with Texas A&M, who I'm really not a fan of, but that 12th man thing with the fans, that's a real thing. You know, you guys come to a show to have a good time. Have a good time. You know, ain't no sense of bringing drama. Ain't no sense of coming in there with a bad attitude, you know, or anything like that. You paid your money. You should come in there and celebrate. We will, right? That's some things that you should do, you know. And the fans, there's an exchange of energy from the stage to the audience. You know, they're going to give you their all, and your response matters every single night. So the love and joy and excitement, that's why Brazil was so dope for me.
Oh, I bet.
Tell us more.
Bet. Yeah.
First night, it was magical. They were happy. They were jumping up and down. I was like, this is kind of like what Carnival would feel like to me.
Right.
They were singing all the words. Some of them probably couldn't even speak a lick of English. Like I can't speak that much, speak Portuguese or anything like that. But it was just breathtaking to see the joy and the appreciation of the locals celebrating our band like that, and rejoicing and having. I had a lady come up to me and ask me for a pic, or I gave her a pic, and she broke down crying like I gave her $1 million. I was like, it means that much to them, and then
Absolutely.
too as well. With the set list, and there's a story behind why I started doing that, but it was just beautiful to see that kind of energy overseas. Portugal would be a thing like that. Like the band could start a song and the crowd, like at their football or soccer matches, are going to sing all the words to the top of their lungs. If the band dropped out, they'll still carry the song. It's those moments. SPAC is like that. The energy in SPAC is insane. The spirit here in Lakewood Amphitheater in Atlanta is like that. There's some magical places. The Gorge is like people dancing in the aisles to where the ushers get tired of chasing them. They just start dancing along with them. It's crazy, as long as they don't fight each other. But it's a beautiful thing to see and witness.
Yeah, I'm just, you've become such a beloved person to so many people in the D&B community. No, you're such a gift. You don't have to interact with people, and you do. Jeanette, do you remember the first time you met Rob?
Yeah, this isn't actually the first time that I've met you. But there was a show where I brought my daughter. It was her first show. It was Camden, 2023, I think. And you somehow found us in that crowd, and you came in.
You're probably dancing crazy.
Oh, of course we were.
It's a release.
Yes, and it's funny because I saw you. I saw you earlier looking at us, and I believe Trisha and Sean were right next to me. But I think you saw us earlier. You were looking at us having a blast, and sure enough, later on, you showed up back up with that set list, and it was just so incredible for my daughter to see something like that. Like at her first show, and it's just such a testament to a part. It's a part of the show. You're a part of the show now. Like people are constantly like, "There's Rob. There's Rob." Everybody loves talking about their interactions with you, and I think that's incredible. Do you have a favorite reaction? I mean, a favorite interaction with fans?
I mean, the thing that drives me to that is my daughter that I lost. We were bonded over music, me and her. She was my singer, and
let it out.
Yeah, she was my singer before I lost her in 2006, and she fell into a coma, and for 3 days, tubes, all this other stuff. And God told me to take a radio and just play all her favorite songs. Came out of the coma 3 days later. We lost her 26. The power of music. Yeah. And we would always get on the phone and battle. You don't know this band. You don't know this band. Well, Fall Out Boy is my band, Dad. I'm like, well, so about Fall Out Boy. Come on, stop playing. Now you're reaching. And she'll start singing the songs and we're turning to that. And I feel like her and Heaven have been pulling strings with me, working with all the artists that I know would be on her playlist every single time. And I know Dave Matthews Band will be one of those bands. And so at the shows, my first week with the band, people would ask for the set list. I'm like, nah, I'm not giving you this thing. It's just a piece of paper. What's wrong with y'all? And then sometimes I would see them on the floor backstage, and I was like, oh, nah. And then one night, I saw this man. He must have been in his 50s, maybe early 60s. He was holding this young girl close to her, and she might have been in her 20s, maybe late 20s. And I was like, man, that dude, he still got it. He got him a young girl at a damn he just, and I love people watching, so I make up stories in my head when I see people off in the distance. And then I noticed the girl got emotional, and the guy, he was crying as well. And I looked at the set list and I was like, all right, I'll just give them this thing as a memory for the show, right? I go down, I hand them the set list, and at that very moment, the person said, "This is my dad. My mom and my father used to come to this particular venue every year and watch the band. And that particular night, they played their mother's song. I want to say it was Granny. It was either Granny or Oh. It was one of them. And I handed them the set list, and they bawled even harder.
Yeah.
It was like, this was that moment for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And that set list means so much to them. And I was like, okay, well, that's part of the mission. Let me look around and just kind of, while I'm out there taking notes, because I have a direct feed to Dave, and I could hear if anything's going on. And I have ADHD. Some people might say it's bad. But if you look in this room, that's one monitor, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Everything's kind of moving. So my attention could be, my ears are here, but I could be all over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
And so as long as I can hear him, I can hear what's going on. But, you know, the interactions are beautiful. Me seeing people like yourself, you know, and your daughter releasing that night, I know that music has had an effect on y'all in some type of way of healing, like it did for my daughter. And so for me, when I see that after the encore, that's when I go on a rampage, grabbing set lists and running them out, giving them people that I've watched, having an amazing time at the show, to take that memory with them. And because they may not be able to meet the band or see the band, my representation is an extension of who each and every one of them on stage would be if they were in my shoes.
I love that.
To try and be like the song "You Might Die Trying," which is my all-time favorite lyric of the band.
Oh, okay.
Give,
yeah, me too.
You'll begin to live. And it does more for me than it even
you
does
got
for
me
y'all.
crying.
Yeah, Rob, I mean,
that's for y'all,
I remember I have this friend Bob, and he his wife's sister just passed, and they met you, and he wanted to hear Sister, and Sister was played, and then you went back in the lawn and found them and gave him the set list, and then he messaged me the next day, and he was so just that made their whole year. It was so meaningful. I mean, I met you in Paris. You gave me a set list. I was probably the crazy American dancing. It was my 50th show, but I
just you to sit down. I want to watch the show. You could have watched the show on TV on the couch floor.
Yeah, but it's just so interesting. God's definitely moving you in ways for you to be able to do that night at night and sprinkle that on. But I know that the fan interaction is just like a sliver of the day. I'll kick it to Matt for a question about your days.
Yeah, absolutely. We know, we've seen you warming up Dave, warming up the rest of the band backstage, watching violent old videos. But, no doubt there has to be a lot more that you're doing on show day. So can you walk us through like what a typical day looks like when you're
with any artist that I'm out on the road with, I do like 3 sessions with them. One, it's kind of like an investigative thing on where I see their voice midday, because things can change. An artist can get to a venue. The venue could have had like a leak in the roof where mold builds up, which they can have an allergic reaction to that. So sometimes I'll get there and just go sniffing around. I walk around every room. I go to the artist room immediately because I have allergies pretty bad to where I have to take these silly drops every day. I'm not disciplined to do that, only when I feel an itch. But I have those things come into play. So I'll do the first warm up maybe before a sound check or around that time. And it kind of tells me a lot on what I got to work with before the show happens. And then there's another one probably 40 to 50 minutes out before the artist walks on stage. And that's any of them. And then immediately after leaving the stage, there's a cool down. And even sometimes, even at an encore, we'll do some work right there. But it's all about balancing the voice out, and making sure the voice is performing at an optimal level. And anything that I hear that could be causing any kind of problems, we try and resolve it as soon as possible so you guys can can enjoy the show, and not only y'all, but the artists can kind of do what they want to do without worrying about if they're going to be able to make it through a show each night. Yeah.
You a little bit earlier, Rob, you were talking about the uniqueness in how set lists are created, and oftentimes how it's done not all that long before the band takes the stage. One of the questions that popped in my head that relates to that, and then as Matt was talking about what your pre-show routine is like, does the set list determine what that pre-show is like? For example, if there is a Halloween, an American Baby intro, songs that really have to push the vocal cords, or is it kind of always the same regardless?
Well, it changes the voice irregardless to the set list. And for me, you ever watch basketball when LeBron James come out on the court before the game start? What does he do?
Sure.
Besides his stretching, he does the baby powder.
Yep.
Wow. What does that mean? Besides, now it's in my eyes. Get it out.
Allergies. He's ready to go.
He's ready to go. Yeah, I'm about to kill you. It'll probably turn to that. Sorry, I'm silly. But in a case like that, everybody has their thing. Whatever that thing is with the artist, hands off for me. If it worked for him for 20-something years, I see how it happens. I stay out of that space. I only got involved in the set list one time, and it was by accident.
Ooh, tell us.
That was in, was that in Alpine? I think it may have been Alpine. No, it wasn't Alpine. It was somewhere else. Yeah, wherever it was, y'all would remember it. And I think it was my third, maybe fourth year. And this is my 12th tour with the band, 12th year. And I was walking back, just kind of sitting out in the audience, getting the energy of what everybody's feeling, the fans are feeling, the excitement. So I could take that into my work too. I like people coming to have a good time. I got to be on point, make sure this voice is right so they can get their good time. That's part of my thought process. And on my way back, there's this, I can never remember the name. She's going to know who she is. Her and her husband collectively have gone over to 300 plus shows. They're in the pit as much as they can be. She's got blonde hair. She's a speech pathologist, speech language pathologist. And me and her, we started geeking out over the voice. And she knew who I was at this time. She's like, well, how do you do this? Blah, 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 blah. With the voice when you're doing this. And then I started talking technical. And she was like, oh, you know what you talk about. That type of thing. And then this one guy comes up that hangs out in their group of 5, maybe 6. And he comes up. He says, yo, Rob. He was like, yo. No, he calls me Rab. Rab, if he sings this song, I'll die tonight. I'm like, why would you want to die, man? I'm sure you hope for everybody. They got to pause. We got a dead guy on aisle 3. Get him out of here. Oh, it's too late for us to continue. We don't want that. Yeah. So he was like, I was like, why would you do that? He was like, yo, we haven't played this song for 18 years. Da 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 da. And I was like, wow, why wouldn't he do that? I'm still new, trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
I go back to the dressing room and I'm in there talking to him. Ian comes in, the late Ian. He walks in the room and listening to me having this discussion with Dave. And I go and I say, hey, man, why is it true you haven't played this song for 18 years? Why are you taking so long to play this song? I'm clueless about deep cuts in the band. I don't know what that is. Remember what I said, when I go on other tours, here's the set list. This is what we do.
Right.
We're not veering off of
in
that.
The box.
If it ain't on there, they didn't want it on the tour. That's what it is. But I'm like, 18 years, man, you don't change the set list like 10 times since I've been there. What's taking so long? Now, mind you, as a fan, me being in the fan side of things, I can just say, hey, send me all the material. They'll send me everything. There's no problem. No, I have to approach it. I want to become a fan too, to see what it is that's driving y'all to keep coming to 500 shows. So I buy them all. Then I'm like, man, there's so many albums. I'm like almost $300 in. What's happening? Is this in? How many versions am I going to keep getting? Right? So I said, okay, is it true? Ian comes in the room, who I'm still trying to figure out. our relationship. Besides, we have to communicate with each other to make the best performance for him. What he's hearing, what he's singing. He comes in and he says, Dave says, hey, did somebody really want to hear this record? And I was like, yeah, you got 6 people out front that just cornered me and said you haven't played for 18 years. One of the guys said he'll die if he plays it. I don't know if that's a good idea. Ian comes in the room. He's like, oh, he's about to play that. Great idea. He takes off running. I'm like, what's wrong with him, man? Why is he acting weird? To Ian, he comes in, great idea. And he bounces out real quick. And I'm like, man, y'all are weird around here. I don't know what that is. He comes out and he does a random guitar exchange. He's supposed to play Whiter Shade of Pale.
Mm-hmm.
And he flubs the chords. Now, mind you, I've heard him play that several times already.
Right.
And he does it masterfully. And then Craig comes out. I was like, oh my gosh. I rewind back in my mind when he said, somebody wants to hear that. He goes on his phone and pulls the song up on his phone. Now, mind you, he's still writing his set list. He pulls up on his phone and he started practicing it. He was like, does that sound like it? I was like, man, I don't even know the song. What are you talking about? I said, you're not going to do that tonight. And you're practicing. What are you doing?
Wow.
And fast forward, he flubs this thing. And I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't warn Craig that I asked him about the song in case he does decide he's going to play it. He comes out and plays Let You Down.
Let You Down.
Yes.
I knew where this was going.
And people on
actually, it's Deer Creek first, then Alpine. It was Deer Creek first.
Well, the first one, that's right. It was Deer Creek. The guys on the side of front of house, they're cussing at the top of their lungs. F you. What the F? What the this? Oh no, they're cussing. I'm like, oh, I'm fired. I'm out of here. It's just been fun. That's it. And the next day I come in, Ian greets me. He was like, how did you get him to play that? I was like, I didn't ask him to play it. I just asked a question and he just did it.
That's so
I was like,
funny.
man, I don't mess with this thing. That's his mojo. And I try and stay clear of that. But my goal as the voice coach is that whatever he put on that set list, that I got him prepared for that the whole time. And to answer your question again, Sean, by the time I get to the second warm up, the set list is normally done by that point. And so I'll make an adjustment here or there, to kind of push it in a different direction. So.
Well, that was an awesome story.
Yeah.
They just keep coming. They just keep coming. And just to connect this, you've become so recognizable to everybody. It's like almost like you're a band member. And so let's talk about when you were basically a band member. 2017, we've got the concert for Charlottesville. As you said, you were starstruck by Stevie Wonder. Who wouldn't be? And then 2024 in Mexico, you're up there with Mavis Staples. May I add that when you take the stage, you're taking the stage with all Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. That must have been like a prerequisite for you to get up there. You got to be a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. Anyways, take us through those. Tell us how those came about. Because what a moment for you, and what a moment for us to see that. And I think having everybody have this connection with you, seeing you up on stage. I know for us it was like, oh, Rob's up there, like we were so happy. We were the soccer moms at that point.
We were
cheering you on.
It was a beautiful moment. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. So Adam, who's the trainer, we worked together with Dave, and he had been kind of throwing like some hints, but wouldn't say anything leading up to the Charlottesville thing. He was like, yo, man, you might want to prepare. I'm like, prepare for what? What are you talking about? And he would never say anything. But if you recall, Charlottesville was several of my clients on the show. Pharrell, who I was working with for the show, not only Dave, Justin Timberlake, who was also on the show. And at the time, I wasn't coaching Chris Stapleton, but Dave's manager manages Chris Stapleton as well. And then my friends, one was the trainer, 3 of them were the security guards for Chris. And they were still trying to make the connection for me to jump on and help him with his voice, even during that time. So my mind was focused on serving everybody that was there. Only to get there, and Dave was like, okay, we're singing with Stevie. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I sit in my corner, take my notes. And then he was like, yo, you want to sing with us? I was like,
oh my gosh.
I just got the chills.
Now, mind you, as a coach, that's a discipline. On the other side of the table, singing leads is a discipline. Singing backgrounds is a discipline. And each one of them come with preparation. And I felt like I wasn't prepared for that, to be honest with you. And I was like, oh, okay, how much singing you want me to do? Well, they're going to do these 3 songs. They're going to do Superstition, Imagine, and there was another one. I can't remember. But we want you to sing on all 3 of them. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And I was honored that they would even ask. But for me, I there's a lot of prep for any kind of singing I like to be prepared for. Well, my brother, that little laugh he does.
That was good.
You did that real good.
That was pretty good.
That was really good.
He'll do that. And I'm like, I don't like it. You're always up to something. That was that moment, but I knew what was necessary for that moment to happen. And although I got, to sing with my hero, not only Dave, but with Stevie, and then them to call me on such a special occasion, it was a beautiful moment, and one that I'll never forget. And somebody just recently posted it, and then I reshared it again. But it's not like I forgot that moment, but so many things have happened like that in my career, to where it was like, oh my gosh, that did happen. It almost seems like it happened so fast. It was a dream that happened. Now, fast forward to the Dave and Tim in Mexico. The week prior was Brandy Carlisle's festival. And so she had me to come up and sing with them, for that. She has this Ladies of the 80s thing, and me, her brother, and then the twins that normally write with her. We became we calling ourselves the Ball Boys of Summer. When it's not even summer, but that's our group name. And so we performed that weekend, and it was a lot of fun, and people got to hear me sing during that time. And it was a beautiful experience, which was beautiful. And then the following weekend comes, Dave doing his thing. And then after that is Fish, who I work with as well, but I never stayed at their festival. Next year, I'm gonna do their festival next year in person. But I had Brandy's situation. And then the following week was, Dave and Tim, and backstage he was rehearsing with Mavis. And Mavis is so sweet. I've seen her on several gigs, and she'll go, come on. Sometimes she called me Ron. I don't know where she get that one from. She don't call me Ron. Like, come on, Ron, you got to give me a voice lesson. I'm ready now. I've been doing good. I'll let Miss Mavis whenever you're ready. That's our lingo. We laugh and talk about that all the time.
Oh, my God.
And so Dave, Tim, and Miss Mavis are rehearsing the song. I'm out the way in my corner, just taking notes, making sure they're good. And one of the artists that's supposed to be featured, I think he was stuck in customs. And I'm like, those harmonies are missing. And I didn't say anything. And Dave was like, hey, could you come and sing some harmonies with us while they're working on the leads? And you know me, when you see me at the gig, especially when it's hot outside, I got on my compression socks. I look like somebody's granddaddy outside, and some shorts and t-shirt. I'm cool. Now, if you saw me in the beginning working with the band, I used to come in with a vest and a tie on. It was like not 1,000 degrees outside. And it's like, who is that fool with all them clothes on? That's me. And so I just down dressed it, and I put on some shorts and be cool. And we're singing backgrounds, take it off and take it off for free. Take it off and all that. Put your right on me, all that stuff. And then Tim says, hey, Rob, you should sing a verse. And I said, okay, I'll sing a verse. He said, Dave's like, you know it? I said, I heard y'all do it like 3 or 4 times. I can figure it out real quick. And I started singing the verse and just kind of playing with it. And then he was like, all right, you're going to sing with us tonight. I was like, what? I said, you see what I got on? He was like, you can find something to put on. Yeah, we'll find something for you around here. I had to jump in the car, go back to the resort where we are at, change, put on all black, rush back. And then he was like, you good?
Gosh.
And I was like, yeah, I'm good. Learning it the whole time. And then I walk Miss Mavis out there, and then I stand there up, walk around, get her on the mic, and then we just sing it just like that.
Awesome.
And it was beautiful. It was a lot of fun. And that y'all were so loud. It was so beautiful for me. I was like,
I was just gonna say, I don't know if you had any ears in, but it was like a wave of just so much joy seeing you up there. Like Matt said, it was so exciting.
The soccer moms.
Yeah, it was so loud. Even with my in-ears, if you saw me, I had to pull one out and then put it back in.
That's awesome.
Because it was loud into the mic. And I was like, it was like, it was once again a beautiful memory, one that I would always cherish, and it's something that I never really pushed the issue on. Yo, let me sing with y'all on that. That's not me. That's not what I'm hired there for. My thing is there to serve and make sure him, Buddy, Rashawn, if needed or when needed, to make sure that they have the best shows of the night, and that's what it's all about, more so.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, we wanted to do a little rapid fire with you. If you don't mind, let's go. Before we wrap up, we're going to go around the room. We're going to ask questions really quick. So I'll start. What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you while you've been on tour with DMB?
Man, it's so many.
I love that.
I bet.
I think some of the funniest stuff happens, when I see, there's a couple things. When I see fans dancing, there are fans that dance to the beat, and there's people that dance to the lyrics, the melody of the song.
For sure. Yep.
And one of the funniest things is Dave would warn everybody. It was like, yo, this song goes like this. That song is 7.
Yep.
Like that. If you just stay on the one, you're on the groove. But man, the people they got and the melody on top of that, it's like, what planet are you from? Where's that?
I love it.
Buddy, we say that. We say that to them all the time. What were you thinking when you put that melody over this groove? It doesn't make any logical sense, but together, it's like the best cookie I could ever eat in my life.
Agreed.
And when I see people dancing, instead of dancing to that, they go, Mama told me, boy, you don't never want that right there. You want to see joy, tears of joy? I would be on the side just in stitches.
I love it.
I love that. I'm going to watch other people now.
That is the funniest thing. Or seeing people playing air guitar really hard.
Oh, that's Matt.
That is me. Air guitar, air violin.
Matt plays all the air instruments.
That is
all
me.
of them.
For sure.
Exactly. So when I see that, that brings me so much joy to do that. And then there are times when I'm in the session, warming up, Dave and Buddy, and I'll have to listen really closely. If I hear something that I need to really hone in on, I'll get really quiet, and then I have to move my head like this back and forth, because sometimes Buddy might be back here, he might be over here, they might be in this corner or in that corner, and then I have to find it in order to fix it. And my tunnel vision goes like this. I have no peripheral at that time when I'm trying to zone in, and somehow he'll find a guitar and just sneak up on me and go bang, bang, bang. And it'll scare the crap out of me. And it unlocks the tension, just like the videos when we're watching that. It's all about joy and laughter, because, once again, going into doing the show, there's a lot of mental stuff that goes into play.
Sure.
And if anything's going to be in my session, it's going to be joyful. It's going to be a lot of laughter. It's going to, even if it's at the expense of somebody else's craziness and videos, I find that so funny. And for me, I like watching bulls chasing people up the street that are agitating them really bad. That makes me so happy. Or people wiping out. The crate challenge was our favorite time, because we'll be working, and then Rodrigo or Sanjay or Renee, they would capture us in those moments of just hysterical laughing while both laughing. And those laughters and the attention focused this way gives me an opportunity to fix stuff this way really quickly. It's a distraction. So some people might call that's manipulation, but it's a distraction. Yeah.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Speaking of joy and laughter, what is your favorite part of your job?
Seeing the artists, the light bulb coming on, meaning the things that they may have had challenges with in the past, and then the single song that they thought was really challenging, to see them just really crush a song that they were concerned about. An example of that away from DMB was Brandy Carlisle at the Grammy singing The Joke. That note,
unbelievable
one of the best Grammy performances ever.
Yes, and she got a standing ovation.
Yes,
amongst the peers, which is the hardest place to get a standing ovation. You know,
I'm embarrassed to say how many times I've watched that video. It's
I don't know if you can see me, but the monitor that had the cursive writing, I was like this, my head like this around the corner looking at it. Although I had monitors backstage, I was like, "Oh, girl, that's my baby out there."
I love that.
Yeah, and incredible. It was Dave that introduced me to her at the Gorge. He's a selfless human being. He's like, my friend needs help, and just so happened her family's room was right next door to mine at the Gorge, and I was like, just come next door, we'll work. And then I've been rocking with her ever since. Yeah,
I love it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So that was your favorite thing about the job. What do you think is the worst part about the job? And I hate to say worst, but what's difficult on a going on tour when fans complain?
When fans complain about,
we think that's difficult too.
When fans complain about set lists, when they complain, or I find that very troubling. Because if I got to see my favorite band and they will play a different set every night, which is a different concert every night, never doing the same thing, you couldn't tell me nothing. In fact, I've been delivered from being being a bad boy. I would fight. I never liked bullies. So I was the one that would always start fight with a bully, but tell the authorities so I wouldn't get in trouble. I'm like, yeah, they started trouble. And I was going to pick a fight with them just to say that they started. I was not. Stop it. Yeah. But I have a problem with that, because they don't, when the band decides to retire, what they going to do then? They can go to another band, but then they'll start to think about all the things that they missed as a result of having that band. Now, you appreciate it when it's gone. You know what I'm saying? Enjoy it while it's here, because we don't know how much longer that these guys have.
Great advice.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So my thing is appreciate it right now, and be grateful for those around you that got their song played.
Right.
Yours is just around the corner. So
such a great point.
Keep that energy up. And then we all collectively will have a great show. The show will be elevated even higher. That's why that show, which is really fresh in my mind, for someone that don't even speak the language, 90% of the audience to love and respect the band like they did in the rain.
Yep.
It was beautiful and breathtaking, and it made my appreciation for Want to Be Here even stronger. Yeah.
I love that. Do you have a favorite venue, Rob?
Okay, there it is. Now I gotta tell you, at Atlanta's, there's Verizon, which is smaller. Okay, I'm pointing in the direction where it is. And then there's Lakewood, which is bigger, but both of them are louder. Lakewood, which is bigger, they're crazy in that arena. I mean, amphitheater. They're loud. In my mind, it's as loud as the Gorge, but half the size.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're that loud at Lakewood. Now, the visual of it's like a normal amphitheater. Ain't nothing to it. But the breathtaking video amphitheaters for me are I like Red Rocks. I like it. I like the look of it. But it's probably one of the most uncomfortable venues for me. Yeah, when I go and sit out there on those little hard benches, I want to bring my own seat and pillows to put on my butt and all of that. And then the sound, it doesn't go this way. It goes from here and go that way on stage. So sonically, it can be a little challenging at that aspect. Like I worked with One Republic there with a choir and full orchestra live recording there. I did full orchestra with Brandy Carlisle. I did full orchestra with Brandy, full band, all that stuff there as well. So I've been there with quite a few artists at that venue, but it's breathtakingly beautiful. Fiddler's Green, which is more people, louder. The energy is just insane. People jumping and running in the aisles. I love that kind of energy. Alpine, before they used to just let people run in their full speed.
Oh, yep.
I used to be on stage with my legs crossed because I was almost about to wet my pants from laughing so hard.
They play the music
coming down that hill. I'm like, what are you doing? You're not going to even make it through the concert. That person's dead right there. She's dead. Send the medics right there. She's gone.
And not because they heard "Let You Down."
No,
right.
Right.
She just wiped out. She fell down. But no, I think that venue is beautiful. Although being on the lawn at SPAC, it could be a little weird, but the energy of that place. And walk in the park, people camping out is something magical about that. You know, like it is at the Gorge. You get up in the morning, people are cooking breakfast, they're sharing with each other, people playing music. I like to walk through the campgrounds and just peep that energy. And then quietly sit with some of the fans and just talk and see what was special the night before. And I take that energy in for myself in my work to help make the next night even better for them. So
I love that.
We could you've been so gracious with your time, and some of these DMB stories have been incredible. Before you run, we know you have a lot going on. What do you have going on outside of the DMB world? What else is going on in your world?
Well, so it's like everybody's on tour at the same time. So, you know, Chris Stapleton just kicked off his tour last week. I got Hosier that just came in from South America. Awesome. I have Erica Campbell. She's got stuff going on, gospel singers. I'm working on a Netflix documentary with this company called Hybe Latin America. They're looking for their next boy band, like Menudo. We haven't seen something like that in years.
Nice.
And if you don't know Hybe is responsible for K-pop artists. Like
I was just gonna say,
Blackpink. Well, they're doing a Hybe America and a Hybe Latin America. Hybe America is the one we ran with Scooter Braun and Ryan Tedder, who's a client of mine as well. And me, Kenny Ortega, and Charm, we did the halftime show for the Super Bowl this year with Kendrick and SZA, who's actually doing a stadium tour right now as we speak. In fact, I'll be with her this evening. She's got Detroit tonight, and then, 5 more shows before they take their stadium tour over to Europe. And it's quite a lot going on, Jason.
I was just gonna
I think the appropriate question should have been, what aren't you working on right
now?
Right.
Like, are you sleeping?
But you're on tour with Dave Matthews Band, and then all of the things that you just said are huge things to also be doing.
I normally go into a dressing room and work with the other artists before going on stage, which is, and that's with all of them. So you know, if I'm out there with them, they all understand. Like if I'm with them, I have to take care of my other clients as well around my time with them. So, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that. So it's a lot going on. I have singers that are on Broadway doing their thing. You know, Jessica Vosk, who's in Hell's Kitchen, Tank, who's in Hell's Kitchen, Orville Peck, who's actually in oh gosh, what's the name of his musical? He's gonna kill me. Sarah Bareilles, who's doing her thing, her and her husband. Been working with them for a while. You know, Fish is getting ready to gear up. Charlie Crockett. I'm just blessed. It's quite a few artists moving at the same time. My love for being with Dave all the time is because of who he is not only as an artist, but as a person that believes in humanity. And the good that still exists in humanity, you know, from saving lives to helping lives and stuff like that. That's why a lot of times he gets my first choice to go on the road with right away. And I've had many options. And how he hit home for me is a lot of different ways. But this one right here, he didn't have to do what he did. And I haven't really told many people this. In 2020, we know what that was. That year, I probably had COVID maybe twice and didn't know what it was. But I felt like my body was leaving me. I was working with artists fighting to keep them in shape before the actual lockdown took place in January at some of those festivals.
Mm-hmm.
All the way down to when we did the Love Rocks, and I watched the whole city of New York shut down, and every artist that was there, tickets refunded, and people flying to where they needed to go to get to a safe place. And not realizing a couple months later, I would lose my mother. There was a divide between me and my siblings because I knew my mom wasn't well. I knew that me, my older sister, we understood what was going on with mom. My younger brother and sister didn't know what was going on with mom. And when the lockdown happened, all work and tours ceased at that time. And so we had no idea what our future was going to look like. I knew I was booked for the band and these other artists later on, but all work just went.
Yep.
Now, I knew I could work online, but I didn't even know what that looked like.
Right.
Because no artists were touring. I knew they could go in the studio, but all studios were quote unquote shut down. If you didn't have a home studio, people were getting in trouble, and depending on the rules of each state, each city. And me and my family, we were at odds on how to bury my mom. Dave called, and he took care of my mom's whole funeral.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. My brother.
Wow.
Wow.
So when I hear people talk or say things about him, and I'm not trying to be political or anything like that, you know, my wife is Australian, but she's Jewish as well. But to see the kind of humanity that this dude have for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't say nothing about my brother. Yeah.
Wow. Oof. Thank you for sharing that. That was
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the kind of guy that you guys are paying to see night after night, that's trying to figure out what set list to do. And not even just about him, to making sure that every guy on stage get a minute to shine or several minutes to shine. Oh, how about you want to sing this song? I see him do that night after night. And to hear people complain about what that is, don't come to me talk about no set list. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's
my fists have Tourette's, just letting you know. I have no control over them, so please forgive me if that happens.
I think just the person that Dave is, just over the course of time, for all of us, you know, we all were fortunate enough to meet him. Me for the first time last year. I think a lot of us for the first time last year. We were fortunate enough to meet him, but even beyond meeting him in person, just the inspiration that he's given to all of our lives, you know, in so many different ways. Because of that, it has just been palpable from the beginning. For me, at least, it was always different. Just the way that I experienced all of the music of the band and the music of Dave, and I know that is the same way with all of you guys too. So that was a great story. Absolutely, yeah. So when you guys go to these shows, these guys are human as well.
Yeah.
And they're here to make life a little special for y'all night after night. So
they do, and they
let's
do.
be the 12th man.
Well, that was a great story. All of these stories were incredible, Rob. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You got it.
You guys out there can catch Rob on a lawn or a pit near you during the 2025 DMB Summer Tour happening right now.
Yeah.
Rob, again, thanks so much. We can't thank you enough.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. See you guys on the road.
All right, we'll see y'all on the road.